The rain had just stopped, and the driveway of the sprawling mansion glistened like polished marble. A chauffeur pulled up, expecting to drop his boss at the airport hours later. But instead, billionaire Richard Lawson had cancelled his meetings in Europe and decided to surprise his family by coming home early. He smiled as he imagined the look on his little daughter Lily's face when she saw him. It had been 2 weeks since he had tucked her into bed, and every video call ended with her tiny voice asking, "Daddy, when will you be home?" But as Richard stepped through the side gate, what he saw froze him in place. On the porch, his fiancée Vanessa, the woman he had planned to marry in less than a month, stood with a bucket of dirty, soapy water. His mother, frail but gentle, was seated nearby, holding Lily's hand as they played with paper dolls. Suddenly, with a cold smile, Vanessa tilted the bucket and poured the filthy water straight over them. Lily screamed. His mother gasped, trembling. Richard's heart pounded. For a split second, he thought maybe it was an accident. But Vanessa's voice cut through that hope like a knife. "Stay away from me, old woman. And you, brat, don't touch me with your filthy hands again. This house will be mine soon, and neither of you belong here." Richard clenched his fists. A storm of emotions, rage, disbelief, heartbreak, surged inside him. He had always believed Vanessa was kind. She was charming in public, adored by his business partners, and seemed affectionate toward Lily. But here she was, revealing the truth when she thought no one was watching. Richard stepped forward, his voice cold but steady. "Funny, I thought this house already belonged to my family." Vanessa spun around, her face draining of color.
Richard, you're back early."
Lily leapt up and ran into her father's arms, sobbing. His mother's eyes filled with tears, not just from the humiliation, but from relief that the truth had finally been exposed. Richard looked at Vanessa, his jaw tight. "All this time, I thought you loved us. But what you really loved was the idea of money and power. You fooled me, but you couldn't fool them." He gestured to his mother and daughter. "They saw your heart before I did." Vanessa stammered, trying to recover. "No, you don't understand, But Richard cut her off. "Enough. A woman who can't respect my mother or care for my daughter has no place in my life. Leave. Now." Her mask of charm cracked completely. She dropped the bucket and stormed off, muttering curses under her breath. The house was silent again, except for Lily's quiet sobs. Richard knelt, wrapping his mother and daughter in his arms. In that moment, he realized something powerful: money could buy comfort, security, even admiration from strangers, but it couldn't buy genuine kindness or love. Those could only be found in people who gave from the heart, not for gain. Later that evening, Richard cooked dinner himself, something he hadn't done in years. They ate together at the kitchen table, laughing through the tears. Lily leaned against him and whispered, "Daddy, I'm glad you came home early." Richard kissed her forehead and looked at his mother, who smiled weakly but with pride. He knew then what his future needed: not glamorous parties, not a picture-perfect fiancé, but a home filled with honesty, love, and respect. As he tucked Lily into bed that night, he whispered, "From now on, it's just us. And we're going to build something stronger than any empire, our family." And for the first time in years, the billionaire felt richer than ever. The night was unusually quiet. After Vanessa's departure, Richard stood by the window of his study, staring out at the rain-drenched garden. His mind replayed the scene again and again. Her cruel words, the bucket of dirty water, the look of shock on his mother's face, the tears in his daughter's eyes. He had built billion-dollar companies, negotiated with world leaders, outwitted ruthless competitors. But somehow, he had almost allowed the wrong person into the most sacred part of his life, his family. He thought back to the beginning. When Vanessa first entered his world, she seemed like everything he could want. Elegant, polite, always knowing the right words to say. But now he realized, those words were rehearsed. That smile was an act. She had studied him, learned what would impress him, but never cared to understand his heart. Richard closed his eyes and whispered to himself, "Thank God I came home early. Thank God I saw her true face before it was too late." But down the hall, Lily was asleep, clutching her favorite stuffed bear. His mother sat quietly in her rocking chair, knitting with shaky hands. Richard walked over, kissed her forehead, and said, "Mom, I'm sorry. Sorry for not seeing it sooner. Sorry for putting you both through this." His mother smiled faintly, her voice tender. "Don't blame yourself, Richard. Wolves often wear sheep's clothing. What matters is you saw her true nature in time. And your daughter will learn something powerful from this, that no amount of money can ever replace kindness." Those words struck deep. The next morning, Richard made a decision. He cancelled the lavish wedding that was already being planned. The world would gossip. Headlines would question why a billionaire called off his engagement. But he didn't care. He refused to let his pride blind him again. Instead, he decided to shift his focus. For years he had poured his energy into boardrooms, contracts, and empires. Now he wanted to pour it into Lily's childhood, into his mother's golden years, into building a life where love wasn't measured by bank accounts, but by small acts of care. And so, life slowly began to change in the Lawson household. Mornings were no longer rushed. Richard sat with his mother and daughter at the breakfast table, pouring orange juice and listening to Lily's stories about school. Sometimes he even walked her to the bus stop, his towering frame holding her tiny hand. Neighbors would smile, whispering, "That's the billionaire Lawson, isn't it? But he looks just like any other dad." And that's exactly what Richard wanted. To be a father first, a son first, and a businessman only after. Weeks later, Lily's school held a parent-child day. Many expected the busy tycoon wouldn't show, but Richard was there, wearing jeans and a simple shirt, cheering louder than anyone when Lily performed a small dance on stage. She spotted him in the crowd, her face lighting up with pure joy.